Welcome to Tash Talks Soul. Hello, hope you're having the most wonderful day so far. Today I am going to finally record the episode that I have been talking about recording for quite some time now, and that is on alignment. How do you know if you're in alignment, and how can you tell if you're not in alignment? The easiest way that I approach this for myself is checking in on the feeling within my body and within my soul. The quickest way to check is, are you feeling at peace? Are you feeling like everything is in flow? Things are easy, you're excited for the future, and are you feeling like, imagine you're out for a walk. It's a nice sunny day, and how are you feeling on that walk? Are you feeling really deeply peaceful and content with the direction that your life is heading? Sometimes there can be chaos in our lives. I recorded in a previous episode, how do you know, it's not a sign for you to give up, that sometimes the universe gives us problems and obstacles to overcome, and it might seem really uncanny, and you might think, how is this even a thing? Why does this keep happening? Is this a sign for me to give up? And I was saying that no, that's not necessarily a sign for you to give up. Sometimes chaos and obstacles are actually a sign that we are on the right path, because the universe likes to check in with us and see whether we are serious and committed to the vision that we're moving towards. Can we hold space for the future that we're calling in for ourselves? Have we evolved and grown into the person that is capable of actually welcoming those blessings and holding on to them? And sometimes these obstacles come up to prepare us for that. So when you look at it through that lens, it actually is in alignment to have a little bit of obstacle and challenges and chaos in your life, because it's all for the greater good. It's all moving you along through this journey to a place where you so deeply want to be. And none of us, or most of us, probably don't wake up one morning and say, oh, I had a lovely sleep, and gosh, I've learned about 6 life lessons in my dream, and now I'm ready to make these changes. I'm a new woman, or I'm a new man, and I am changed, miraculous, voila. That's not really how it happens for most of us, is it? Most of us have to go through some pain to draw attention to those parts of ourselves and our lives that we would like to change. And then most of us, through that pain, transform and then grow into the version of ourselves that is more aligned with where we want to be. I don't think that pain is a prerequisite. I don't think suffering is a prerequisite to leveling up and spiritual ascension and evolving and growing into our gifts and into our highest selves. I think we can choose to get there through love and through gentleness and through a more pleasant path. That is an option that's available to all of us. Most of us, though, probably don't pick up those lessons while they're coming at us in gentle, beautiful, joyful form. Most of us need, we don't open our eyes until we get an absolute beating from the universe. So in that episode, I also talked about, there's signs that you are on the right path. But at the same time, that's not to say that you should be pushing it uphill and it's meant for you 100% of the time. Sometimes it's not. And so in this episode, I want to talk about the difference between what is being in alignment and then when is it time to reassess. So reality is, in life, things aren't always going to be easy, right? So some of us go through life and say, well, if it's right for me, it's going to be easy. That's not always the case. If you look back on your life, some of your greatest achievements, it may not have been an easy journey for you. Maybe that's a career that you've had to work really, really hard for, or maybe that's a relationship that you've had to work really hard on yourself to get it to a place that is so fulfilling. Or maybe your children, maybe that's been a really difficult journey to maybe fall pregnant, or maybe to show up as the parent that you want to be on a daily basis. Maybe that's been really, really hard. These things are hard, right? But they're worth it. And it's all for something. It's all for this bigger picture. And in the end, it's so fulfilling. So I just want to bust the myth that it has to be easy. The difference is, when it's meant for you, even though it's hard, and on a conscious level that it's hard, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like you are draining yourself in order to show up for this thing, whatever it may be. It feels like it's in flow. So sometimes things will be hard, but the difference is, does it flow? Do you feel as though you're being pushed along, like when you're on a surfboard or a boogie board or whatever, jumping through the waves, and then you catch that wave and it just pushes you through no effort of your own? All you've had to do is position yourself in the right place at the right time. You've come prepared, you've got your board, you get on it. That's your role, to prepare yourself. And then the universe is the proverbial wave. Like, it's pushing you along. It feels effortless. It's flowing. There might be bumps in the road, but you're being carried. Is your life flowing? Do you feel like you're being carried? If it feels as though you're having to convince yourself of something, to say, no, I know that this makes me feel funky in my body. I don't feel great about it. I'm not excited about it. It's making me feel some kind of way. Maybe I can't quite put my finger on that. And you're trying to convince yourself, no, 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 this is for me. I have to do this. And you're finding yourself in this place of tension and battle, of this resistance. And you're using your pure willpower, raw dogging it, to just force yourself to show up. If it doesn't feel right, maybe it's time to stop and have a think, because your soul, it already knows. It doesn't need convincing. You don't need to convince your higher self. Your heart knows. Your highest self is the ultimate intelligence. It already knows what path is meant for you, what you've chosen, what's aligned with your highest good and your highest timeline and your highest self. And you don't need to tell it, hey, please give this a chance. It's already done. Everything that's meant for you is already yours. Your heart knows. And if you find yourself daydreaming about your life, or a particular area of your life where it feels like it's going down a certain route, and you continuously find yourself daydreaming about it going down a different path, and it's pervasive. I'm not saying the odd occasional thought of, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I just, moved to Sweden and became an artist. And you have that thought once and then it doesn't come back. But if you're finding yourself consistently thinking about that, and it's pervasive in your life, then maybe it's time to stop and think, why is this in my heart so much? Will that bring me the most ultimate joy to go be an artist in Sweden? I don't know why I'm using that example, because that is so not what I want to do with my life. But I think because my sister moved to Sweden for a little bit, that's why it's coming up as this, thing to do. So if you are daydreaming about your life going down a particular track, maybe it's time to stop and think about it. And if it comes up for you from a place of peace, and you feel so deeply looked after, held, protected, it just feels safe. There's no part of you that's coming from the mind or the ego, or, I want to do this because it will get me recognition, because it will get me money, because it will buy me social currency. It's not coming from any of those places. If you think about moving to Sweden and it fills you with absolute peace in your soul, like not even in your body, in your soul. Think about when something is just going right in your life and you can just feel it. It's right. There is no doubt in your mind about, is this thing for you? It just feels right, even if it's scary, even if you know it's going to be hard, even if there's going to be obstacles and you're going to have to work for it. It just feels like the right thing to do in your body, in the depths of your heart. You feel it. That's a clue. That's your clue to look further into that. So I was out for a walk the other day, and I was walking through this nature trail, and I was noticing all these trees that were growing on this trail, and they were growing in the funniest shapes. One was arching over like a walkway, like a little arch. And I thought, that's such an unnatural way for the tree to grow in that shape. And I just thought, oh, how wonderful and interesting is that? And then I started noticing all these other trees that were growing a bit funny. And then maybe some of them were having leaves growing out of a branch randomly, not in a spot where all its other leaves were growing. And I was just walking and thinking, these trees are not in their heads. These trees are not growing there thinking, well, if I just grow in this shape, then that's going to make all the people walking past think that I'm really cool. Or if I don't grow in this shape, then the other trees are going to think that I'm a bit boring and I'm a bit of a loser or whatever. Apply it to yourselves. The stories we tell ourselves in our heads? There's never ending loop and cycle of over analyzing and overthinking. Maybe not everyone does that. I certainly do. I fall into traps of overthinking stuff and I get so into my head, and I will start assessing opportunities and situations in my life based purely on my brain, on the pros and cons list, the overthinking, but what about this and what about that? And then if this is the situation, if I've interpreted it this way, how do I feel emotionally about this intellectual scenario? Or what if I've misunderstood that? What if it's actually more like scenario A becomes more like scenario B? How do I emotionally respond to that? That's not an emotional response. That's intellectualizing your experience. And that's a disconnect from your intuition and from your heart and from your higher self. And so I'm looking at these trees, and these trees aren't living their life that way. They are so purely in the now. It's just the current moment. It's the sun, it's the breeze, it's the rain if it's raining. And that is all they know. And all they're doing, they're just being. They're so deeply rooted, pun intended, in their experience and in their present moment, and they're fulfilling their purpose just by doing that. So why do we overthink? Why are we not so deeply rooted in just existing and being and sinking into our bodies and our souls and our hearts and using that as our compass rather than our brains? Because our brains can lead us astray. If you're relying solely on that for your decision making in life, then you might find yourself unfulfilled and you might not be able to come up with the reason because your brain tells you you've ticked all the boxes, you've done all the things, you've made all your decisions based on these metrics that you've laid out for yourself. Why isn't it all coming together? And that's because you've neglected that deeper part of yourself. You've got to get out of your head. And not to say completely forget about your logical, analytical skills and just live life on a whim and never stop to think about consequences or repercussions, anything like that. There's still a place for it, but don't forget to check in with the deeper parts of yourself when navigating life so you don't find yourself in a situation where you think, how did I get here and why am I so unhappy? So I want to go through now some signs that you are in alignment. So some of these I've already touched on. It doesn't feel like work and you have unlimited energy. Think when you have a passion project. You might be spending hours on it. I know when I'm in the throes of a passion project, I will spend 6-8 hours straight on it. I won't sleep. I'll barely eat. I am all consumed. Now, that might be an ADHD thing as well, but I am who I am and I can't extract elements of myself to tell you what it is or isn't. I'm just sharing my experience and what all these different puzzle pieces of myself add up to be my experience. And that is when I am consumed by something, I might be working hard, but my perception of it, my experience of it, it's not hard. It feels easy. It actually energizes me. I have unlimited energy, unlimited motivation, unlimited creativity, ideas. I'm inspired. I'm in flow. It feels easy, even though to the casual observer, they might think I'm working really hard at something. But your internal state is so fulfilling. So that's a sign. You might be coming across a lot of synchronicities. I have an episode on synchronicities and what they are and what they might look like. But I'll briefly touch on it here. Seeing angel numbers, repeating numbers, having uncanny coincidences, think that things that it just make you stop and pause and take notice and think, wow, that is such a crazy coincidence. And it's come up 3 times in the last hour. And this is a bit bizarre. Intense coincidences. Um, you might come across amazing opportunities. So when you're in flow and you're in this energy of, wow, my life is just so juicy, you just attract more juiciness. You attract incredible opportunities. Somebody might contact you about a business idea, or you might get invited to work on an exciting new project, or you might get booked for a job that really excites you and is a lot of fun. So when you're in a great place energetically, you attract exciting opportunities. In my life, I've had so many wonderful, exciting things that have come up for me. The ability to travel for projects and passions, and um, being able to collaborate on really exciting things and getting to meet new people. And it's like when you're in flow, that just seems to come to you so much easier. It just feels like you're surfing that wave. You're not even doing anything. You're not pouring, it feels like you're not pouring any of your own energy into pushing something uphill. You're just being carried, and it's effortless. It's just flowing. So your manifestations might start coming true, and you might think, wow, look at the way my life's unfolded. These are things I was just dreaming about 5 years ago, and now look at my life. And then you might, um, create a new goal for yourself, and it just happens for you super quickly. When you're in alignment, things just line up for you, and they just happen for you. And it's like you're in this constant state of pleasant surprise. Like, universe, I'm so open to positive surprises. I wonder what amazing, exciting thing's going to happen for me today. And it's like you're going through life feeling this way. You might have an amazing sense of excitement where you're excited for the future. You can't wait to see what comes up next. And at the same time, though, it's not like an anxious excitement. It's a very deeply peaceful excitement, like that feeling in your body, in your heart, in your soul, where you are just so deeply happy and content, and at the same time energized, and can't wait to see what else is going to ebb at your shores and come into your life. And quick disclaimer, while I'm talking of this, I'm not saying to be in alignment you feel this way every second of every day for a prolonged period of time. We are human, and we have cycles that we go through, seasons that we go through. And you might have a morning that feels juicy and exciting. And then by lunchtime, you might have a bit of a slump. You might maybe have a negative thought. You might be feeling a bit flat and tired. And you think, oh, I'm not riding that wave anymore. That's normal. You're not going to be in the state permanently, but it's how good are you at holding on to this state, not forcefully, but how good are you at bringing yourself back into it? Do you give yourself the grace to process the difficulties as they come up, and process them not just intellectually, but in your body? Allow yourself to feel the emotions that come up. If something affects you, are you authentic with yourself? Do you self-abandon, or do you have your own back? Do you speak up and say, actually, this is a problem for me? Do you allow yourself to feel something hurts your feelings, because we're human? These things happen. Do you let yourself cry, scream, punch, and get your frustration and anger out in a healthy way, not hurting anybody around you? But I have a friend that told me that whenever I feel overwhelmed, when you're driving, just in sitting at the lights, just scream. Just scream really loud. I did it maybe twice, and it made me really lightheaded. So it's not something that I personally do, but I do a lot. But I can see the merit in it. Like, let that emotion pass through your body. So what if you get a few people looking at you weird? Probably just think you're a bit strange, and they'll give you a wide berth and leave you alone. That's all right. What's wrong with that? But let those emotions pass through your body, and then switch your perspective and try and get back to the state of being so grateful for the life that you have. I'm not saying that to be in alignment, you have to be in this place 24/7. It's okay to have down days or even a down week. But then you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you think, okay, how can I reframe, and refocus to be more positive. So, other signs of being in alignment: you're creative, you're in flow, you're inspired, you feel like you're in the right place at the right time. I'm sure everybody has examples of when they think back to their life and think, wow, that situation really worked out for me. And I really feel like I was in the right place at the right time. You might feel really supported. You might feel really lucky. You might feel like you've got the wind in your sails. You're just being pushed along and you're just being guided, and everything feels open and exciting, and like opportunities are endless. Like the world is your oyster. Your intuition might be kicking in and spot on. You just have a gut sense of, an opportunity might come up and you think, it seems really good on paper, but you know what? That's actually not for me. And you're trusting yourself. You're leaning into that. You're being guided, and it all just kind of works together to make life feel juicy and your connections feel fulfilling. Your friendships, your relationships, your family relationships, it just feels um, like your chest just swells. You're so grateful. You're so happy. You're so excited to see what the future brings. And at the same time, you feel deeply at peace. There's no room for anxiety or fear or worry or scarcity, lack, anything like that. It's life just feels good. You know what? You just feel good. So for me, there's signs for myself that I'm in alignment. And now let's talk about signs that you're out of alignment. Basically, take everything I've just spoken about and think of the opposite. End of the episode. Goodbye. No, I will go through them. So, when you're not in alignment, it might feel like your lessons come harder and with more intensity. So, a metaphor that is quite often used is the boulder analogy. So, if there is a lesson for you to learn or you're out of alignment, your guides, the universe, angels, God, whatever you choose to believe in, will throw a pebble at you to get your attention and say, hey, have you considered that maybe you've outgrown this is not for you anymore, this is not in alignment, this is not aligned with your values or who you want to be or where you want to go, and just little situations. And most of us are so disconnected from our spirituality, from our higher self, from our intuition, that we kind of swat it away like a fly and think, oh, that's weird. It's kind of grabbed my attention, but not enough. And you kind of dismiss it and shoo it away. And then another situation might come up that leaves you feeling kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. But then your brain kicks in and you think, no, how can I even be thinking that? Don't be silly. If it's job related, I've got bills to pay. How am I going to pay my bills in Sweden being an artist? If we're using that example, I'm committing to it. And you might start rationalizing and then you dismiss it again. And then the lessons become bigger and bigger and the pebbles become bigger and bigger until huge boulders are being thrown at you. The universe wants you to live out your highest timeline, and it will gently at first try to realign you. But if you refuse to listen, things will keep getting worse and worse and worse until you have no choice to stop and say, I cannot live like this anymore. And then you finally make a change. But why put yourself through that pain? Why wait until you get to that place? If you're disconnected from your intuition, then it's easy to doubt yourself, and it's easy to doubt these signs, and it's easy to get into your head and try to convince yourself of, sticking with something that maybe you know deep down isn't for you, or making a change that you know is for your highest good to make that change in, or take on something new, take on a new project, a new hobby, a new something. Stop with the excuses and listen to that inner voice. Listen to that intuition telling you that these signs and these coincidences, they're not a coincidence. They are messages and it's direct communication. But because we don't trust ourselves, our society teaches us not to trust that part of ourselves, Western culture. We don't. And we allow our lives to completely unravel before we actually stop and look at something. We could save ourselves all that pain and choose to learn our lessons through love and joy and ease. But unfortunately, because we're not very good at, this dialogue with the universe or God, or, and I'm not saying everyone's terrible at it. Maybe your life experiences have been, no, I do get that little inner voice and I do listen to it. And sometimes even, it doesn't even make any sense. I have done absolutely crazy things that logically I think, what the heck am I doing? But intuitively, I know without a shadow of a doubt, this is for me. I absolutely have to take this step. I can't tell you why. It doesn't make any logical sense, but I just have trust and faith that it will work out. Some of these things I'm still waiting to see how it's all going to work out, but certainly in my past, looking back, things have worked out. Every time I've listened to my intuition and my gut, things have worked out for me, even though I couldn't see the forest for the trees at the time. I could not see why, how, what was going on. Listening to my intuition has never led me astray. And so if we choose to ignore that, we might find that our life just gets harder and harder and harder, and the lessons get harder. You might feel stuck, trapped in a rut, very stagnant. And we used the feeling of, daydreaming about something and feeling really positively and excited about something, and that being a pervasive feeling. The other side of that coin is the feeling stuck, trapped in a rut pervasively. It's okay to have a day or two or a week or a couple of weeks even where you feel a bit stuck and in a rut. And, certain things, like if you've got kids or a lot of kids, you might feel a little bit Groundhog Day. That's, just the reality of life. That's not a sign from the universe to, give your kids away. What I'm talking about more so is that emotional feeling of unfulfillment, like in a job that you don't like, where it's a pervasive feeling of, I don't like it here. And stop trying to convince yourself that you absolutely need it to pay your bills. Have a backup plan. Don't throw complete caution to the wind, but it's just, a sign to stop and think, okay, I don't think this is working for me anymore. It's that pervasive feeling of, I'm in the wrong place. I'm not where I want to be. This is not me. When I think about, another little test I like to do is when I'm in the wrong place, it's like, can I imagine myself still being here in the same situation 5 years from now? And if I feel like I've been punched in the guts when I think that, that is like, that's so clear. It brings so much clarity that I cannot keep on as I am. If you think, okay, in 10 years' time, you might even think, heck, in 2 years, if I'm still in this place, I think my soul would just shrivel up and die. If you feel that way about anything, stop and dig into that feeling, because that's a sign that you're out of alignment. You might be afraid of the future. That's a sign of not being in alignment. What are you afraid of? What is it about the way that you're carrying on through life now is so out of alignment with who you want to be and where you want to go that it's bringing up fear for you? And I'm not talking about general day-to-day anxieties about, oh gosh, how am I going to pay my bills with rising cost of living and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's still a situation to sit and think about how you can improve your situation. But I'm talking about the emotional unfulfillment. If your fear of the future, when you think about, it just seems to be easy to use the job thing as an example. I promise I'm happy in my job. If you use the job as an example, it's, if you think, can I see myself here in 2 years' time? Can I see myself here in 5 years' time? And if you feel like you've, been kicked in the guts, then you feel almost fearful about still being there. Why is that? And I think it's because it feels like self-abandonment. The fear's coming up from your inner child, feeling like my needs are not being listened to. My feelings are not being validated. I am afraid to continue going on as I am against my will, and that not being seen or acknowledged or validated. I think that's where the fear comes from in a situation like that. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my 2 cents, take it or leave it. But if you're afraid of the future, if your inner child feels unseen and not validated by being forced to go along with something that they do not want to do, Stop and explore that. You might feel exhausted, burnt out. There's no energy. We talked about being in alignment and having this unlimited energy where you're just being carried along, like on an avalanche, just being carried along, and it just doesn't ever seem to dry up. When you're passionate about something, you have all the time and all the energy in the world for it. If you're finding yourself feeling the opposite, that you're feeling really drained, burnt out, exhausted, not motivated, even physically unwell. I know for myself in the past, when I have been not where I need to be, I started getting sick a lot more. It's like I had a sore throat or a cold or some sort of flu-y thing every other week. It felt like at least once a month, or a couple times every couple months, I'd be sick. And I don't like I mean, I've got 3 kids that are all out and about in the world and they bring bugs home, but I'm not somebody that's constantly sick. Um, so when I do start getting sick, that's a sign that I'm need to, have a look at where I'm not nurturing myself in terms of the direction of which I'm going. Because sometimes I think subconsciously we get sick because we actually want a break. We want a break from our lives. Um, I know nobody likes getting sick, but when you think about, maybe work's been really full on or life's been really full on and you just feel like you just need a couple of days in bed to lock yourself away and rest and recover. And then you get sick and you think, oh God, I'm so busy. I don't have time to be sick. But when you really check in with yourself, maybe actually that's exactly what you wanted. So you manifested that sickness. Your body is saying, you're not listening to me. You need to rest. So now I'm going to make you rest. And my grandma had this trick for me. She said, if you ever feel yourself getting sick, what you do is you stop and you think to your body, think, what are you gaining by this? Do I need to have a rest? Do I need a break? Because honestly, right now, I can't afford to get sick. But I promise you I'll take time out and I'll rest. If that's what you need, if rest is what you need, I promise you, I'm making a pact, I'll give you rest. And you might plan something into your schedule. Maybe it's a nap, maybe it's some self-care, maybe it's swinging in a hammock and reading a book under the gazebo, which is something that I plan on doing shortly. Give yourself that time. And you might find that all of a sudden your stuffy nose or your sore throat just goes away. I know for me, when I've done that, I caught the sickness and it didn't progress, it went away. Because there would be a payoff for me getting sick because I'd be so busy, I was ignoring my body's signs for rest. But if you stop and honor that, you might actually find that you don't get sick as much. So if you are finding yourself being sick a lot, maybe look at, are you out of alignment in your life? Are you not honoring and respecting yourself? And something just feels off. If you are having thoughts like, is this all there is? I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. And you just feel wrong. Like there's a very distinct feeling in your body between when something feels right and when something just feels wrong. And I'm not talking about subtle, intuitive hits. It's not, well, it is that, but it's more fundamental than that. It's just, if you feel anxious, on edge, tense, you feel stuck and stagnant, you're just not happy, just feels like Groundhog Day, you're not moving ahead, you thought your life would look different and this is what it looks like, and you're just looking at all the pieces in front of you and thinking, how did I get here? That's a sign to stop and just maybe be really honest with yourself. So you might identify these things in your life, and this might be different for different spheres of your life. You might find that in your personal relationships, you are thrilled. Everything's going amazingly. Maybe at work, everything's amazing. But in your personal hobbies, spiritual pursuits, kind of time for yourself, self-nurturing, maybe that's where you're feeling a little bit, ugh. And so that's where you need to look and say, okay, how can I show up for myself in this area? How can I gently lead myself into feeling the way that I feel in other parts of my life? How can I feel more in alignment? Or you might find that in general, your whole life just feels like it needs a makeover, and then you stop and you think. And the trick is to use your body as a compass and not your mind. Your mind will be your ally in this. Maybe you can do some journaling, maybe you can write some lists, maybe you can meditate, but check in with your body and see what brings you peace and what brings you that feeling of just being stuck in the mud, trying to run through mud, waist deep mud, and just falling flat in your face into it and just not getting anywhere. Because that is not where we are designed to be. That's not our expression of our highest selves. So be gentle to yourselves, be kind. I hope that some of this helped bring some clarity and has given you something to think about. Let me know what you thought. Don't forget to rate the show and follow at Tash Talk Soul on Instagram if you want to reach out and give me some feedback or suggest episode ideas. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you have the most wonderful, aligned rest of the day. See ya. Bye-bye.